Oh, right. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. Um, Everybody can see it? Good. So what we're going to talk about right now is when and how to refer. We're going to talk a little bit about that now. And we're going to jump into talking a little bit about the next steps for your all's coaching experience. And then we're going to break out and do stage 4. Um, so that's kind of the path that we're about to go down. So answer any questions, discuss things however you want. It'll be better with more conversation as far as this section goes. So when and how to refer is very complicated for coaches, right? Because we have to refer because we are not the subject matter expert. So we have to constantly be thinking about building our referral network. So it's not necessarily where we're getting referrals from. That's a different thing. That's marketing, right? That's on the business side. But the moment that you're sitting there, hold on, sorry. Um, but the moment that you're sitting there and you know that you're about to have to refer this client somewhere, it's already too late, right? You should already have referrals. You should already have an idea of what it's going to take to get referred, how long those referrals take, and those types of things. So think about that. And it also helps to start narrowing down once Nicole, if you're working with women with postpartum depression, right? So you would probably want to have mental health therapist on standby, maybe not on standby, but maybe that if you have to refer them out and you start to notice that coaching is starting to enhance or exacerbate their depression symptoms or something along those lines, you have to have a referral network. Or if they become suicidal, you have to have that, right? Or working with executives or college kids, we have to be prepared for some of those worst case scenarios, because the moment that we're sitting in front of a client and they say that they want to harm themselves and we don't have a plan, we're in a world of hurt, right? In that. So thinking about how to refer, or how to prepare to refer, I think this kind of starts to get self-explanatory. I would highly recommend having a spreadsheet that you keep and start keeping now with different referral sources that you could potentially have. Another thing about coaching is different than practicing traditional medicine. Coaching, you can work across borders, right? And you can take clients from California to New York to Hawaii to you can even do it international, right? So this is not so you have to really think about what resources could you reasonably have at your fingertips for different types of challenging situations. Or even if you're working with business executives or healthcare executives, and then they began to feel suicidal, or they just got a recent diagnosis of diabetes, right? It could be a whole slew of different things, and we got to start preparing our repertoire, our bench to be able to help that. If you work in an agency, just be clear of that supervisory chain and how to make those referrals, because sometimes, there's a lot of red tape that you got to jump through. And be familiar with referral sources. Do not refer somebody if you do not know that person. Well, actually, let me take that back. Refer them with the caveat that I do not know who I'm referring you to, right? Like if you need to refer them, especially like a mental health clinician or something like that, you know, get to know the people, right? Know their websites. If you're going to refer people multiple times, I would even say, create relationships with them, go to where they are, things like that. Recognize that not all client issues are appropriate for coaching. Now, this used to read, recognize that not all clients are appropriate for coaching. And I strongly believe that everybody is in a place in their life to where they could be ready to coach, right? Because anybody can work on mission, anybody can work on a long-term behavioral goal, they can work on action steps, even if they're homeless, they're depressed. But it's really, can they show up to the appointments and be a participant in acting in those areas? If they're so depressed that they can't even have conversations and those types of things, then it needs to be a referral to mental health. If it's an executive and they're having all kinds of anxiety issues that's impacting their life, showing up to work, that's a time to refer them to a mental health clinician or something along those lines. and then become familiar with behaviors and signs that might suggest additional resources are needed. And what I mean by this is almost what I was alluding to before, right? Is if you're working with healthcare executives, what are some of the areas and behaviors that they exhibit, right? Postpartum depression, the same concept. The working with college kids, working with foster parents, like know their stuck points and the behaviors that they exhibit, right? And those types of signs, like with college kids, knowing the signs of binge drinking, but also having a plan for if somebody comes in with sexual assault, right? Because that's another big thing with college age kids. So having those types of thoughts and processes within your coaching repertoire. And we'll talk more about this, especially with coaching paperwork and things like that, of trying to keep track of all those types of things as well. So when to refer. These are just some guidelines. This is not anything robust. I think really using sometimes your intuition, which I think we talk a little bit about, but sometimes clients just aren't a good match for you, and that is okay. It is your duty to refer those people out, right? Like if you do get some of that transference that Todd was talking about of, hey, like every time I come and I'm talking with Haley, it just triggers me every single time that I think about my mom who passed away or whatever that was, and it's just beating me up. You need to refer that person on because you're not going to effectively be able to be a coach. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Um, I know I already talked a little bit about if a client expresses intent and thoughts of doing harm to themselves. This is only active, right? So if somebody is actively wanting to harm themselves, is different if they're having thoughts of harming themselves. But you still need a plan for both, right? Have 988 numbers available, have those types of things because, you know, those types of things happen from, you know, all people experience these issues. So clients showing signs of depression. Now, again, are you going to have our clients that are going to be depressed? Yes, right. That doesn't make them not eligible for coaching, but if they're showing signs, they don't have a mental health clinician, they don't have, things going on for them, then maybe you could use Elicit, provide Elicit, and then, provide some type of mental health clinician to them. Or maybe just setting goals and a long-term behavioral goal and action steps helps their depression, right? So it's also the level of depression that you also got to think about and use some of that intuition. I will say in general, if it is impacting their day-to-day life, they're having effects on their work, they're having effects on home, kids, whatever it is, family, then yes, right? That's a time for referral. Same thing with high anxiety. I would imagine everybody in this class has high anxiety. Does it make you not eligible for coaching? Probably not, right? So keep that in mind. But if it's impacting their life, clients unable to make progress. I will say that this is probably a relationship issue if they're not able to make progress and or you're not really coaching the client and meeting them where they're at. I would almost say a lot of times whenever clients aren't making the progress, we're not using the motivational interviewing skills and identifying the stages of change of where they're at and using those types of skills to progress them forward before we say that they're not meeting their desired goals. Seem to have conflicts and values. I think that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. If you're really, if you're coaching also other people that trigger you in a way that is a value conflict for you, you most certainly need to refer those people out because you're also not going to be able to show up with them. And trust your intuition. So how to refer, this is something that you can definitely have in some of your coaching paperwork of how to refer, the referral process is something that you'll probably have to work on ongoing, but I would have a referral process because another thing that you never want to do is refer somebody out to something and then not follow up on that referral process. So you should have a full-on process from beginning of end to a referral. Discuss with the client first before making the referral. Use Elicit, provide Elicit to help provide that information to them, brainstorming, and you use those coaching skills, just don't hand out information. And then offer to continue to provide coaching if that is desired by the client. So if they're in mental health counseling, that doesn't mean that you should not be a part of that person's team, right? If you're a coach, really what you should do is then start partnering with the mental health clinician or whoever it is and really start to be a multidisciplinary team. That's another part of that referral process is you just shouldn't refer somebody out and then that's it. And then hopefully they got there. You should follow up with the referral, make sure that you know what they're doing, and then also have communication to make sure that your goals, everything's aligned basically. So any questions on when and how to refer, or comments, concerns? Pretty straightforward. Yeah, go ahead, Sade.
I'm thinking if you do a referral and then you realize that you made a mistake, how do you address that? Maybe you think you acted too soon and then you want to make an amend. How do you address, you know?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will say though, the good thing that would be in your toolkit is ultimately you don't make a referral without the client's permission, right? So if you're listening, let's say it's a mental health clinician, you use that elicit, what do you know about being referred out to a mental health clinician from here? And then whenever they say, oh, I know that it's backed up and it might take me 3 months to get in and blah, blah, blah. And then you say, well, I know a clinician or, I know a little bit about getting into that and I have a referral process. Would you like to know about it? And if they say yes, then you say, okay, well, I have a clinician on standby who takes my referrals and I can get you seen within a week. Is that something you'd be interested in? I don't think it's a bad thing to refer somebody to something like that on ahead of time. I'm trying to think of an example to where you might refer somebody, maybe the example would be more that you referred somebody to a mental health clinician and then you found out that they're not a good clinician, right? You got feedback from another client that, this person was picking their nose and, completely not paying attention to them the entire time, whatever it was, showing up late, the whole 9 yards. And finally you get this report, then I would just have a genuine moment in your next session or give them a call, whatever your kind of plan is, and go back to that authentic piece, right? To say, hey, what happened was this person was a person that I referred people to. It seemed good. And then now things have kind of changed. And I apologize for that. However, if you would like more information on another referral process, I do have things like that or something along those lines. But I would definitely have that authentic moment to say, hey, like something happened. Whatever happened, happened. And I'm so sorry. Here we are in this place. How would you like to proceed forward? And put it kind of back in their shoulders to kind of go from there. Did that answer your question? Okay. All right. Any other questions? All right.